So I'm just taking a measurement right now for our rake flashing. We're gonna make a cleat, which is gonna get screwed down to the substrate first. And then the other rake piece is gonna actually be like a single lock that's gonna hook onto the panel itself. So we're gonna go fabricate that now, along with these panels that go on the dormer. So we need, looks like we need about, we're gonna make it heavy just so we have enough. We're gonna make them at 9 feet to give us some room to play with. This coil came from, so the roof that we're installing is 20-inch coil stock. Typically, what they do is they take it off a master coil. So it's a 48-inch master coil. So ideally, you would get a 24-inch coil, and there's no waste. This is the waste off of it. It's 8 inches total. But they slip, but they give it to you and with your metal because you pay for it. But it's good for making all these parts, and that's what we're going to use to make our rake pieces and cleat. And if I'm making a lot of parts, I'll put this on a decoiler over there, and I'll just pull it across the workbench. But since we're only making a couple pieces, we're going to just do this off the floor. So I'm going to slit this down to about 5 inches, and it's going to make a piece of rake that is about 3 inches in width once it's said and done. Fold one. That's what's going to hook onto the panel. Now we just need to put a hem on it. And I always measure the hem out after the fact because these folds vary. All right, so right here is the rake cleat. This is going to be the attachment for the gable flashing. This is going to get screwed down to the deck here. It's going to get covered up by the panel. This doesn't have to look neat by any means. It can stop short of the edge. You don't want it to go past because the other piece is going to actually cover it up. But we're going to put quite a few screws in here because this is where it's going to get the wind. And I can't really go too close to the edge here because of the way I could probably screw into that trim. I got to think about if it ever had to come off. This trim had to come off. It wouldn't come off very easy if I had screws in it, but we might put a couple in there. Hopefully it never does have to come off. But we're going to screw it out. You want to drive these screws in pretty good too, because you don't want them to put any impressions on the panel, rub the panel. See if we can get a screw on the outside here. And we can alternate them. All right, so this is our starter panel, and it's a double male because the rake piece that we just made on the brake is going to actually connect to this pan and connect to this cleat, and it's going to lock on. This is our eave termination, drip edge, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to hold it up off of here slightly. I'm going to leave about, I don't know, a 3/4 inch gap. That way when I put a gutter on this fascia, the gutter is able to tuck up underneath, and the water will be sure to run in there. Plus, it doesn't allow any water to get up onto here because you've got a break, capillary break right here. So you're not going to have water sucking up through. We're going to go ahead and put a cleat on down here, make sure we're lined up on the edge. All right, so I'm just going to, while I'm down here at the bottom, I'm going to put one cleat on. These cleats are made for 1 inch double lock standing seam. These are a 300 series stainless steel. That way, I mean, I think it's really important to have a good cleat system because that's what's holding your roof down. So, especially with the galvalume, if you're going to use galvalume mill finish material, you're going to want to use a 300 series stainless or a galvalume cleat itself. You can also get galvalume cleats, but would not recommend a galvanized cleat. So now I'm going to head up and get a cleat up top. Make sure we're flush with the edge. And that cleat's holding tight, just tight enough to keep it from sliding down, but we're gonna wind up putting the tab, folding the tab over up here. Which we'll take the snips, make a tab. Now it can't slide down. And now we're gonna cleat it out about every, you want about every 16 inches on center at a minimum. Sometimes I'll do about 14. Don't strip the screws out. Yeah, so we're just gonna leave that on temporarily for now until we get that top seamed. Once that top seamed, then we'll be able to put it on permanently. So now we gotta cut the ridge. All right, so we're gonna finish out this ridge on the gable end. And this is just one way that you can finish it off. So right now it looks a little rough because it's laid out so it could be seamed. We're gonna wind up making a pocket here, and then we'll be able to put our rake on. So why don't we go ahead, and so you can see how this is bent straight with this panel. So we're gonna take these 45 pliers and start working this back up. See how it's starting to form a pocket. This way we don't have a little hole for water to sneak in there, start rotting your fascia board out. But the problem with doing it this way is you need to wait to put these fascia pieces on after the fact. So if it's hard to access and it's steep like this, might not be the best option. Of course, we got to cut the bottom now before we engage it, crimp it down, and then this one will come up and get a plumb cut. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that bottom. Had it in position where I wanted it up top, and then I scribed it up to this drip edge here. And now I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. It's a plumb cut. So now we're going to lock it on. So this should be a 10-12 slope. I'm going to go ahead and mark a 10. So if all goes well, it'll bury into that. So I cut this plumb. I left the tab here so we can bend it around, because these will slide on you even when they're crimped and locked down. So that's going to keep it in place.